The ship floated in the darkness like a dead thing. No lights, no signals, just a massive metal body drifting through empty space. Commander stood at the bridge of his vessel, the horizon's light, and stared at the screen showing the abandoned transport. "Life signs?" he asked. His second officer, a young woman named Park, checked her instruments. 47, Commander, all weak, all in the cargo section." Felt his jaw tighten. Cargo section. That meant only one thing. This was a slave ship. The Empire ran hundreds of them across the galaxy, moving living beings like products from one market to another. The United Earth Fleet had been hunting these ships for years, but the galaxy was too big and they were too careful. Not today. Today they had found one. "Prepare boarding teams," ordered. "Full medical support. We do not know what we will find in there." 20 minutes later, led his team through the airlock of the dead ship. The air inside was cold and smelled of fear and sickness. Emergency lights gave everything a red color, like old blood. The team moved through empty hallways, their boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. They found the cargo hold behind a massive door, worked on the lock while the soldiers kept their weapons ready. When the door finally opened, stepped inside and felt his stomach turn. Rows of cages filled the room, hundreds of them. Inside each cage was a living being. Some were tall and thin with skin, others were small and covered in fur. A few looked almost human but had extra arms or strange eyes. All of them were thin, all of them were scared, and all of them moved away from the humans as far as their small cages allowed. "Start opening them," said quietly. "Be gentle, they have been through enough." His team spread out across the room, walked deeper into the hold, checking each cage, making notes of species and conditions. The medical team would need to know what they were dealing with. Most of the captives did not meet his eyes. They had learned that looking at their masters brought punishment. In the farthest corner of the room, behind a stack of broken containers, noticed something. A small cage, smaller than the others, pushed into the shadows like someone had wanted to hide it. He walked toward it slowly and bent down to look inside. At first he thought it was empty. Then he saw movement. A tiny figure pressed against the back wall of the cage, trying to make itself as small as possible. It was covered by a torn piece of dirty cloth. "Hello," said softly. "I am here to help you." The figure did not move. He could see it shaking under the cloth. Carefully opened the cage door. It was not locked, just bent closed. He reached inside slowly, the way one might reach toward a frightened animal. The cloth fell away. She was small, even for her species. Recognized her as a race known for their silver skin and large eyes that could see emotions as colors. Her skin was not silver anymore. It was dull, covered in old scars and fresh bruises. Her eyes, which should have been bright like moons, were empty and dark. She could not have been more than a child by human standards, maybe 15 or 16 years in Earth time. When she saw his hand coming toward her, she raised her thin arms over her head. Her whole body shook so hard that could hear her bones moving, and then she spoke. Her voice was barely a whisper, broken, desperate, the sound of someone who had given up hope long ago. "Please don't hurt me." Froze. 4 words, just 4 simple words, but they hit him harder than any weapon ever had. He had been a soldier for 20 years. He had seen death and war and terrible things. He thought he had grown strong against pain. He was wrong. Something inside his chest cracked. He felt it break like glass. This tiny, broken girl, hiding in a cage in the corner of a slave ship, asking him not to hurt her, not asking for freedom, not asking for food or water or medicine, just asking him not to add more pain to her life. Pulled his hand back slowly. He sat down on the cold floor, making himself smaller, less threatening. He removed his helmet so she could see his face. "I will not hurt you," he said. His voice came out rough. "No one on my ship will hurt you, I promise." She did not believe him. He could see it in her eyes. She had heard promises before. Promises meant nothing in her world. "My name is," he continued. "I am human from Earth. Do you know what humans are?" A small nod, more fear in her eyes now. Of course she was more afraid. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy. Warriors, predators, a species that had spread across the stars with impossible speed. The galaxy told stories about human violence, human strength, human rage. To her, he was probably just a more dangerous master. "What is your name?" he asked. She looked confused by the question, like no one had asked her that in a very long time. She finally whispered, "I am called." Repeated the name carefully. "That is a beautiful name. I am going to take you out of this cage now. I am going to carry you to my ship where we have doctors who will help you. You will have food and water and a warm place to sleep. And no one will hurt you. Do you understand?" She stared at him, waiting for the trick, waiting for the pain that always followed kind words. Did not move. He simply sat there, hands open and visible, letting her see that he held no weapon, no chain, no tool of pain. Minutes passed. Finally, slowly, crawled forward. She was so weak she could barely move. Gently lifted her from the cage. She weighed almost nothing. Her bones pressed against her skin like she had not eaten properly in months. She did not fight him. She did not have the strength. But she also did not relax. Every muscle in her tiny body was tight, ready for the blow that she believed would come. Carried her through the ship, past his team who stopped their work to watch in silence. He carried her through the airlock, onto the horizon's light, and straight to the medical bay where Doctor was waiting. "Take care of her," he told the doctor, "whatever she needs." As he placed on the bed, her hand grabbed his sleeve. Her grip was weak but desperate. "Why?" she asked. "Why help me?" Looked at her broken body, her empty eyes, her trembling hands, and he gave her the only answer he had. "Because someone should have helped you a long time ago." He left the medical bay with her question still burning in his mind. Why help her? The answer seemed so obvious to him, so simple, but he realized with a pain that would not leave his chest that no one in this girl's entire life had ever thought the answer was simple at all. Doctor had treated wounded soldiers, sick children, and dying men. She had seen bodies broken by war and minds damaged by pain, but she had never seen anything like the girl lying on the bed in front of her. His body was a map of suffering. Scars crossed her silver skin like roads on a planet. Some were old and faded. Others were fresh and red. Burns marked her arms where someone had pressed hot metal against her flesh. Her ribs showed through her skin because she had been starved for so long. But her body was not the worst part. Her eyes were the worst part. They followed every movement made, watching, waiting, expecting pain. When reached for a medical tool, would flinch. When spoke softly, would tense up as if gentle words were always followed by violence. "I need to examine you," explained slowly. "I will touch you to check your injuries. It will not hurt. If you want me to stop at any time, just say stop. Do you understand?" Looked confused. "Stop." "Yes, if you do not like something, you can tell me to stop and I will stop." The girl's face showed no understanding. The word stop had no meaning in her world. Slaves did not tell their masters to stop. Slaves accepted whatever was done to them. Felt her heart ache. She began her examination as gently as possible, explaining each step before she did it. Lay perfectly still, like a doll. She did not react to anything, not even when cleaned her wounds. It was as if she had learned to leave her body behind when painful things happened. After 2 hours, finished her work and stepped back. She brought a tray of food, simple things, bread, fruit, clean water. "Eat," said kindly. "You must be hungry." Stared at the food. Then she looked at, then back at the food. "What must I do first?" she asked quietly. You do not have to do anything, just eat." "There is always something," said. Her voice was flat dead. "Food is payment. What service do you need?" Felt sick. This girl had been taught that nothing was free. Every meal she had ever eaten had cost her something terrible. She did not know how to accept a gift because gifts did not exist in her life. "The food is free," said firmly. "No service, no payment, just food because you are hungry and you need to eat, that is all." Still did not touch the food. She sat there, waiting for the trap to show itself. Sat down next to the bed. "I will sit here with you. When you are ready to eat, you can eat. There is no rush." 30 minutes passed. Did not move. She did not speak. She just sat quietly, letting see that nothing bad was happening. Finally, with shaking hands, reached for the bread. She took a small bite. Her eyes never left face, watching for the punishment that she was sure would come. No punishment came. Ate slowly. Tears rolled down her silver cheeks, but she made no sound. She had probably learned long ago that crying brought more pain. Commander visited the medical bay later that day. He stood in the doorway, not entering, not wanting to scare the girl again. "How is she?" he asked. The doctor stepped outside to speak with him. Her face was troubled. "Physically, she will recover. She is young and her species heals quickly, but her mind," shook her head. "She has been a slave since she was a small child, Commander. She was taken from her home world when she was maybe 4 or 5 years old. They sold her to different masters over the years. She has been beaten, burned, starved, and used in ways I do not want to describe." His hands formed fists at his sides. "Used how?" "Her species can feel emotions. They can sense what others are feeling and even share those feelings. Her masters used her to read prisoners during questioning. They would hurt the prisoners and she would feel all of it, every scream, every moment of fear. She experienced it all over and over again." Leaned against the wall. He felt tired in a way that had nothing to do with his body. "She asked me what service she needed to give for food," continued. "She does not understand kindness, Commander. She does not believe it exists. Every good thing in her life has been a trick. Every soft word has been followed by violence. She thinks we are just, better at hiding our cruelty." "Then we will teach her," said. "It is not that simple. She fears us, humans especially." "Why humans?" Looked at him with sad eyes. "Because the galaxy tells stories about us. We are the warriors, the apex predators, the species that destroyed itself with nuclear fire and survived, the species that spread across the stars in 1 generation. To her, we are the most dangerous masters she has ever had. She is waiting for us to show our true nature." Was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his species, his people. Humans had done terrible things throughout history: war, slavery, cruelty. They had hurt each other in countless ways, but they had also loved, sacrificed, and protected the weak. Humanity was not just one thing. "She expects us to be monsters," he said slowly. "Yes. Then we will simply have to not be monsters." He looked through the window at who was sitting on the bed with her knees pulled up to her chest, making herself as small as possible. She saw him watching and quickly looked away, lowering her head in submission. "I want guards outside her room," told. "Not to keep her in, to keep everyone else out. No one enters without her permission. She needs to feel safe." "She does not know what safe means." "Then we will teach her that too." Over the next few days, the crew of Horizon's Light learned about their new passenger. They learned that she ate only when no one was watching because she was afraid of being caught. They learned that she slept on the floor because she did not believe she deserved a bed. They learned that she would do anything anyone asked of her, no matter how small, because refusing was something she had never been allowed to do. Park, the engineer, found trying to clean the hallway outside her room one morning. The girl was on her hands and knees, scrubbing the already clean floor with a piece of torn cloth. "What are you doing?" asked gently. Froze terror filled her eyes. I am sorry, I will work harder. Please do not punish me. I just wanted to be useful so you would keep me." Felt tears forming in her eyes. She knelt down next to. You do not have to work for us to keep you. You are not a slave here. You are free." Shook her head. The word free seemed to frighten her more than anything else. "Free is dangerous," she whispered. "Free means no one protects you. Free means anyone can take you." Did not know what to say. How do you explain freedom to someone who has only known chains? How do you give safety to someone who has only known fear? She did the only thing she could think of. She sat down on the floor next to and started helping her clean. Not because the floor needed cleaning, but because she did not want the girl to be alone. They sat together in silence, two women from different worlds, and the floor became spotless while something small and fragile began to grow between them. It was not trust, not yet, but it was the possibility of trust, which was more than had ever had before. Made a decision on the 7th day. He would not force to trust him. He would not ask anything from her. He would simply be trustworthy and let her see it for herself. Every morning he walked to her door. He did not knock. He did not enter. He just sat down on the floor outside her room with his back against the wall. Sometimes he brought coffee. Sometimes he brought a book. He would sit there for 1 hour, reading or drinking or just thinking. Then he would get up and leave. The first few days watched him through the small window in her door. She did not understand what he was doing. No master sat outside a slave's room. No master gave time without wanting something back. She waited for him to enter and demand whatever he wanted, but he never did. On the 4th day, he brought a blanket, not for himself. He simply placed it outside her door before he sat down. When he left, the blanket stayed there. Did not touch it for 2 days. She watched it through the window, expecting it to disappear, expecting someone to come and tell her it was a test she had failed. But no one came. The blanket stayed. On the 3rd day, she opened her door just enough to pull the blanket inside. It was soft and warm and smelled like something clean and good. She wrapped it around herself and cried into it, muffling her sobs so no one would hear. Knew she had taken the blanket. He did not mention it. He did not ask for thanks or gratitude. The next morning, he simply sat outside her door again, and this time he placed a small picture beside him. It was a painting of mountains covered in white snow under a blue sky. Earth mountains. Human mountains. When he left the picture behind. Collected it like she had collected the blanket. She stared at the mountains for hours. She had never seen anything like them. Her home world, the one she barely remembered, had no mountains. The places where she had been kept as a slave had no beauty at all. She did not know that places like this existed in the universe. Every day left something new. A recording of rain falling on leaves, a small plant in a pot, a piece of soft fabric in a pretty color. He asked for nothing. He expected nothing. He simply gave. Park started doing the same thing. She knew that people were curious by nature. Their minds needed puzzles and problems to solve, so she left mechanical puzzles outside's door. Simple things at first. A cube that could be taken apart and put back together. A box with a hidden switch. The first puzzle sat untouched for days. Then one morning, found it solved and placed neatly back outside the door. She smiled and left a harder puzzle. Within 2 weeks was solving puzzles that most humans found difficult. Her mind was sharp, clever, hungry for challenges. The puzzles gave her something she had not had in years, a reason to think about something other than pain. Doctor continued her work as well. Every day she visited and asked simple questions. What foods did she like? Was she sleeping well? Did anything hurt? At first, answered with what she thought wanted to hear. She had learned to tell masters what they wanted, not what was true. Was patient. I am not asking what you think I want to know. I am asking what you feel. What you actually feel. There is no wrong answer. Struggled with this. Her feelings had never mattered to anyone. She did not even know how to identify them anymore. Happy, sad, scared, angry. These were just words. She felt only numbness most of the time and fear the rest. I feel afraid, she finally admitted one day. That is okay, said. You are allowed to feel afraid." "I am." "Yes, all feelings are allowed, even the bad ones. You can feel afraid, sad, angry, anything at all. No one will punish you for your feelings." This was hard for her to believe. She had been punished for crying, punished for looking unhappy, punished for showing any emotion at all. Masters did not want to see their slaves feeling things. Then came the day that changed everything. Asked to follow her to a different room for a medical scan, obeyed as she always obeyed. They walked through the hallway toward the scanning room, but when they reached the door, suddenly stopped. The room was small, dark. It reminded her of a box where she had once been locked as punishment. Memories flooded her mind. She could not breathe. "I will go in," she whispered, forcing herself forward. "I will obey." Held up her hand. "Wait, do you want to go in there?" Blinked. "It does not matter what I want." "It matters to me. Do you want to go in that room?" His body was shaking. The small dark space terrified her, but she had never been allowed to say no. The word was not part of her vocabulary. "You can say no," said gently. "If you do not want to go in, you can say no, and we will find another way." "No means punishment." "Not here. Here no means no, that is all. You will not be punished. You will not be hurt. You can say no." Stared at her. This had to be a trick, a test. If she said no, something terrible would happen. But's eyes were kind, patient. There was no hidden cruelty there. "No," whispered. The word felt strange in her mouth. She waited for the blow, the shouting, the pain. Nothing happened. "Okay," said simply. "We will do the scan later in a bigger room. Let us go back now." That was all, just okay. No punishment, no anger, just acceptance of her choice. Stood frozen in the hallway as walked away. Then her legs gave out beneath her and she fell to the floor. She curled into a ball and wept. Not quiet tears like before. Deep, shaking sobs that she could not control. Came back and sat beside her. She did not touch. She did not try to stop the crying. She just sat there, a warm presence in the cold hallway. "I said no," gasped between sobs. "I said no and nothing happened." "Nothing will ever happen," promised. "You are allowed to have choices. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to be a person, not property, a person." The crying continued for a long time. Years of pain were leaving his body through her tears. She cried for every time she had wanted to say no and could not. She cried for every choice that had been stolen from her. She cried for the child she had once been, the child who had been taught that her voice did not matter. When the tears finally stopped, something was different. Something small had broken free inside her. Not trust, not yet, but something like hope. A tiny seed that had been planted in dark soil and was just beginning to reach toward the light. That night, for the first time since she had been taken from her home world, slept in the bed instead of on the floor. She wrapped herself in his blanket, looked at his picture of mountains, and closed her eyes without expecting to be woken by pain. She dreamed of snow falling on silver skin, and for once the dream was not a nightmare. The diplomatic vessel arrived without warning. One moment, the space around Horizon's light was empty. The next moment, a large silver ship appeared from hyperspace, its hull marked with the symbols of the Galactic Trade Confederacy. Commander stood on the bridge as the communication request came through. He felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. The Confederacy did not make social calls. "Open the channel," he ordered. The screen flickered and a face appeared. It was a diplomatic ambassador from one of the Confederacy's member species. His skin was blue and covered in small scales. His eyes were yellow with thin black pupils. His expression was cold and professional. "Commander," said without greeting, "I am here on official business. The Empire has filed a formal complaint against the United Earth Fleet." "What complaint?" "Theft of property. You boarded a transport vessel and removed cargo belonging to registered merchants. The cargo included 47 biological assets. The demand their return." His jaw tightened. Those biological assets are living beings, sentient creatures who were being transported as slaves. The Empire has legal rights to trade in biological assets within their territory. The transport vessel was in neutral space, where such trade is not prohibited by any galactic treaty. Therefore, the cargo belongs to them. Therefore, you have committed theft. I have committed rescue. His expression did not change. The Confederacy does not recognize that term in this context. They have provided documentation proving ownership of all 47 assets. They are willing to negotiate compensation for the damages caused by your interference, but they require the return of their property. They are not property, they are people. That is a matter of cultural perspective. The Confederacy does not impose human values on member species. What your species considers wrong, other species may consider acceptable. It is not our place to judge. Stepped closer to the screen. His voice remained calm, but there was something dangerous underneath it. Let me be very clear, Ambassador. Those 47 beings are under the protection of the United Earth Fleet. They will not be returned. Not now. Not ever. Tilted his head slightly. You would risk diplomatic relations with the Confederacy for a few slaves. I would risk much more than that. They are offering generous compensation, 10,000 credits per asset. That is well above market value. I suggest you consider their offer carefully. There is nothing to consider. They are free now. They will remain free. His eyes narrowed. Commander, perhaps you do not understand the situation. The Empire is a major trading partner of the Confederacy. They have significant military resources. If you refuse to cooperate, there may be consequences. Are you threatening us? I am informing you of reality. Was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was soft and cold. Ambassador, I have a different reality to share with you. 3 weeks ago, I found a child hiding in a cage on that ship. She was covered in scars. She had been starved, beaten, and used as a tool for torture. When I reached toward her, she raised her hands to protect herself and begged me not to hurt her. He paused. His hands were shaking slightly, but his voice did not waver. She begged me, a child, begged me not to add more pain to her life. Do you understand what that means, Ambassador? Do you understand what kind of suffering creates that response in a child? Said nothing. That child is now on my ship. She is healing. She is learning that kindness exists. She is learning that she can say no without being punished. And you want me to send her back to the creatures who broke her. Commander, the law is the law. Personal feelings cannot override legal obligations. Then the law is wrong. That is not for you to decide. Stepped even closer to the screen. His eyes were hard as stone. Let me tell you what I have decided, Ambassador. That child stays with us. All 47 of those people stay with us. If they want them back, they can come and try to take them. If the Confederacy wants to support slavers, they can join the attempt. But I promise you this, any ship that comes for those people will find the United Earth Fleet waiting for them. Not just my ship, every human ship in this sector, every human ship we can call. You would start a war over this. I would end one. The war that has been happening for years while the galaxy looked away. The war against the weak and the helpless and the forgotten. Humanity did not come to the stars to watch innocent beings suffer. We came to be better than we were. And today, right now, that means protecting those people with everything we have. His expression finally changed. A small crack appeared in his cold mask. Perhaps it was surprise, perhaps it was fear. You are making a mistake, Commander. No, Ambassador, I am making a choice, and my species makes choices like this. We choose the hard road when the easy road is wrong. We choose to fight when fighting is right. We choose to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is who we are. That is what it means to be human. He straightened his uniform and looked directly into the camera. Tell them their property is no longer available. Tell the Confederacy that humanity will not trade in suffering. And tell anyone else who is listening that if they harm the weak, if they sell the innocent, if they break children for profit, they will find humans standing in their way, every time, without exception. Was silent for a long moment, then he spoke slowly. This will have consequences. Everything has consequences. I can live with these. The will not simply accept this. Then the will learn what happens when they face creatures who refuse to look away from evil. Now get off my screen, Ambassador. I have refugees to care for. He cut the communication. The bridge was silent. Every crew member had heard the exchange. They looked at their commander with something like awe. Park spoke first. Sir, you just threatened war with the Empire and challenged the authority of the Galactic Trade Confederacy. Yes. For 47 former slaves. For 47 people. For one scared girl in a cage. For the idea that some things matter more than politics and trade agreements. He looked at his crew. If any of you disagree with what I have done, you can file a complaint with Earth Command. I will accept whatever consequences come. No one moved to file a complaint. Han, a large man who usually spoke only in jokes, raised his hand. Sir, when the come, I want to be on the front line. So do I, added. One by one, every member of the bridge crew spoke. They all said the same thing. They stood with their commander. They stood with the refugees. They stood against anyone who thought living beings could be bought and sold. Felt something warm in his chest. Pride. Not in himself, but in his crew, in his species, in the stubborn, impossible, beautiful human refusal to accept cruelty as normal. Thank you, he said quietly. All of you, now let us prepare, the will come, and when they do, they will find us ready. The word spread across the sector within hours. Human ships changed course, moving toward Horizon's light. Captains who had never met Commander heard his words and made their own choices. They came from Earth stations and Mars colonies and distant outposts at the edge of human space. They came because a child had asked not to be hurt. And humanity answered. 3 months passed like water flowing through fingers. Each day brought small changes, tiny steps forward that added up to something larger than themselves. Was becoming a different person, or perhaps she was becoming the person she had always been meant to be. She still flinched sometimes. Loud noises made her freeze. When someone moved too quickly near her, her body would prepare for pain that never came. But the flinching happened less often now. The fear stayed for shorter times. She was learning slowly that this ship was not like the places she had known before. Han discovered that, like jokes, it happened by accident. He was walking past the common room, telling a terrible joke to another crew member, and he heard something strange. A small sound, almost like a laugh. He turned and saw sitting in the corner, her hands over her mouth, her eyes wide with surprise at her own reaction. "Did you laugh?" asked, his face lighting up. Looked terrified. Laughing had always been forbidden. Happy slaves were suspicious slaves. But just grinned at her. "You laughed at my joke. That means you have good taste, or bad taste, I am not sure which. Want to hear another one?" He told her another joke. It was worse than the first one. Something about a space pilot and a talking engine. It made no sense at all. Laughed again. This time she did not hide it. From that day forward, made it his personal mission to make laugh at least once every day. He told her the worst jokes in the galaxy. He made funny faces. He tripped over things on purpose and pretended to be surprised. Most of his attempts failed, but enough of them succeeded to make smile, and every smile was a small victory against the darkness of her past. Continued working with on mechanical projects. What had started as puzzles grew into something more. Brought to the engine room and showed her how the ship worked. She explained the systems, the power flows, the careful balance that kept them all alive in the void of space. Absorbed knowledge like dry ground absorbs water. Her mind was quick and curious. She asked questions that surprised with their depth. Within weeks, she was helping with minor repairs. Within 2 months, she was suggesting improvements that the engineering team had not considered. She is brilliant, told one evening. Genuinely brilliant. The things she understands about energy systems. I have engineers with 10 years of training who do not see what she sees. What do you think held her back? Nothing held her back. She just was never given a chance. Her masters only wanted her empathic abilities. They never cared about her mind. Nodded slowly. How many other brilliant minds had been lost to slavery across the galaxy? How much potential had been wasted because some species decided that others were property? He still sat outside her door every morning. It had become a ritual for both of them. He no longer needed to bring gifts. Now sometimes would open the door and sit beside him. They would not speak. They would just sit together, watching the stars through the nearby window. One evening, asked him a question that had been waiting inside her for weeks. Why did you save me? Thought carefully before answering. You have asked me that before. You said because someone should have helped me long ago, but that is not an answer. Many people saw me suffering. None of them helped. Why did you? He looked at her silver face, her large eyes that had seen too much pain for such a young life. Because you were afraid, he said slowly. And when I looked at you, I remembered what fear feels like. I remembered being small and scared and hoping that someone would help me. I was lucky. Someone did help me. My parents, my teachers, my friends. I grew up safe because others protected me. He paused, choosing his next words with care. When I saw you in that cage, I realized that you had never had anyone to protect you. You had been alone in your fear for your whole life. And something inside me refused to accept that, refused to walk away and leave you alone. But I am not human. I am not your species. That does not matter. They would say it matters. Most species would say it matters. Then most species are wrong, shook his head. Pain is pain, fear is fear. It does not matter what shape the body is or what color the skin. When someone is suffering, that suffering is real. When someone is afraid, that fear is real. Humans know this because we spent thousands of years hurting each other. We learned slowly and painfully that there is only one question that matters. Is this being in front of me capable of feeling? If the answer is yes, then that being deserves kindness. Was quiet for a long time. Then she did something she had never done before. She reached out and touched his hand. In culture, touch was sacred. It meant trust. It meant acceptance. It was the highest honor one could give to another. Understood. He had learned about customs in the weeks since the rescue. He knew what this gesture meant. He did not move. He did not pull away or push closer. He simply held still, letting her decide how much contact she wanted, letting her be in control. I feel your emotions, she whispered. I can see them like colors around you. Most masters were dark colors, red and black and anger and cruelty and emptiness. She looked at him with wonder in her eyes. You are gold and blue and green, warmth and protection and peace. I did not know those colors existed. I thought they were just stories. Felt tears threatening to form in his eyes. He blinked them back. They are real, he told her. And they are yours now, all the gold and blue and green you can hold, for as long as you want them. His hand tightened on his. Her touch was light, like a small bird landing on a branch. I do not know how to be free, she admitted. I do not know how to live without fear. No one knows how to live until they try. You will make mistakes. You will be scared sometimes, but you will not be alone. I promise you, whatever happens, you will never be alone again. She believed him. For the first time, she truly believed him. Not because his words were convincing, but because she could see his colors, and his colors did not lie. That night dreamed of Earth. She dreamed of mountains with white snow and blue skis. She dreamed of rain falling on green leaves. She dreamed of a small house somewhere quiet, where she could sleep without fear and wake without pain. In her dream, she was not alone. When she woke, she found that she was smiling. It was small and uncertain, but it was real. A smile that belonged to her, given freely, without fear of punishment. She was learning to live. She was learning that living was worth doing. And somewhere across the sector, ships were gathering, ready to protect this new life she was building. Ships filled with humans who had heard her story and chosen to stand between her and the darkness. The universe was vast and cold and often cruel. But tonight, in this small corner of space, kindness was winning. The alarms woke everyone from sleep. Red lights flashed through the hallways of Horizon's Light as the crew rushed to their stations. Commander reached the bridge within 2 minutes, his uniform half-fastened, his eyes sharp and alert. "Reports," he ordered. Was already at her console. 3 warships just dropped out of hyperspace. They are holding position 10,000 kilometers from our fleet. Looked at the tactical display. 3 vessels, each one bristling with weapons. They were assault ships built for war, not for diplomacy. They had come to take back their property by force. But they were not facing the Horizon's Light alone anymore. 12 human ships now formed a defensive line between thee and the refugee transport. Battle cruisers from Earth, destroyers from Mars, fast attack ships from the outer colonies. They had arrived over the past weeks, one by one, answering call. Some came because Earth Command ordered them. Others came because their captains had heard story and refused to sit idle. "Open a channel to the commander," said. The screen flickered. A face appeared. It was sharp and angular, covered in dark red scales. The eyes were black and showed no mercy. "I am commander of the Imperial Fleet," the alien said. "You are holding property that belongs to our citizens. You will return this property immediately, or we will take it by force." Stood calmly, his hands behind his back. "I am commander of the United Earth Fleet. The beings you are calling property are now free people under human protection. They will not be returned." "Then you choose war." "I choose justice. If that means war, then so be it." Made a sound that might have been laughter. "You have 12 ships, human. We have 3. But our ships are worth 5 of yours each. Do you truly believe you can stop us?" "I believe we will not step aside." "Then you are fools." "Perhaps, but we are fools who sleep well at night because we do not trade in suffering." The communication ended. On the tactical display, the 3 ships began to move, spreading into attack formation. "All ships battle stations," ordered. "Target their weapons systems first. Disable, not destroy, unless they leave us no choice. These are soldiers following orders. We do not want more death than necessary." "Sir," said quietly, "they outgun us." "I know. We might lose." "I know that too." He looked at her with calm eyes. "But some fights are not about winning. Some fights are about showing the universe what you are willing to stand for." The fleet opened fire. Bright energy beams crossed the space between the ships. The human vessels scattered, moving with coordinated precision. They were smaller and faster than the assault ships. What they lacked in firepower, they made up for in speed and teamwork. The Horizon's Light shook as a glancing hit struck its shields. Sparks flew from a damaged console, but the ship held together and its fingers danced across her controls, rerouting power to keep them fighting. "Return fire," commanded. Human weapons lit up the darkness of space. They were not as powerful as weapons, but there were more of them, and they came from multiple directions at once. The human captains had trained together for years. They knew how to fight as a team, covering each other's weaknesses, exploiting enemy blind spots. The battle lasted 47 minutes. 47 minutes of chaos and fire and desperate maneuvers. In the end, 2 ships drifted powerless, their engines destroyed, their weapons silent. The 3rd ship, Commander's flagship, was surrounded by human vessels with weapons locked on its hull. "Surrender," broadcast. "Your fleet is disabled. Further resistance will result in destruction of your remaining ship. Surrender and your crews will be treated with respect." A long silence. Then's face appeared on the screen again. His scales looked duller now. The arrogance was gone from his black eyes. "You have won this battle, human, but this is not over. The Empire will not forget this insult." "It was not an insult. It was a lesson. We hope you learned from it." "A lesson in what? Human violence." "A lesson in what happens when you hurt the weak and expect the universe to not care." Stepped closer to the screen. "We are not the strongest species in the galaxy, Commander. We are not the oldest but we are perhaps the most stubborn. When we see suffering, something inside us refuses to look away. When we hear someone begging for mercy, something inside us refuses to stand idle." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You came here to reclaim slaves. Property, you called them. But those 47 beings were never property. They were people with thoughts and fears and dreams. They were children of their home worlds, stolen and broken for profit. And when one of them asked me not to hurt her, when she whispered those words from a cage where she expected nothing but more pain." His voice hardened. "I decided that the galaxy needed to learn what happens when you make a human feel like that. What happens when you force us to see the cruelty that too many species consider acceptable. We do not look away, Commander. We face it, and then we stop it." Was silent. For a moment, something like uncertainty crossed his alien face. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why risk your ships, your people, for species that are not your own?" It was the same question had asked. The same question that seemed to confuse everyone in the galaxy except humans. "Because she asked us not to hurt her," said simply, "and we decided to be worthy of that trust." The commander stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly he lowered his head. "We surrender." The human fleet took the prisoners with care and respect. They treated wounds, provided food and water, and processed everyone according to the rules of war. There was no cruelty, no revenge, no punishment, just efficiency and basic dignity. Some of the soldiers seemed confused by this. They had expected torture. They had expected what they would have done to captured humans. Instead, they received the very kindness that their species had decided was weakness. That night, after the battle was won and the ships were secured, found standing at a window in the observation deck. She was watching the disabled vessels floating in the distance. "They came for me," she said quietly, "for all of us." "They did. And you fought them. Your people died for us." Nodded. 3 human lives had been lost in the battle. 3 names that he would carry with him forever. "Why?" asked again. "Why do humans do this? Why do you suffer for strangers?" Stood beside her and looked at the stars. "Because the universe is cold and dark and full of beings who only care about themselves. Because someone has to be different. Someone has to show that another way is possible." He looked at her silver face, now stronger, now braver than the broken girl he had found in the cage. "Someone has to answer when the weak call for help. We decided that someone would be us." Reached out and took his hand. Her grip was stronger now, no longer the grip of someone afraid to let go. "Thank you," she whispered. "You do not have to thank us." "Yes, I do, because I finally understand." She looked up at him with eyes that shone like moons. "You did not just save my body from that ship. You saved my belief that goodness exists. You saved my hope, and that is worth more than any battle." They stood together in silence, watching the stars, while somewhere across the galaxy, word of the battle spread. Word of humans who fought for strangers. Word of a species that refused to accept cruelty as normal. The universe was vast and cold. But tonight, in this small corner of space, something warm had been born. And it would only grow brighter. 1 year had passed since the day opened a cage in the dark corner of a slave ship. 1 year since a girl whispered 4 words that changed everything. 1 year of healing, growing, and building something new. Stood at the entrance to the great hall of the Galactic Assembly. The hall was enormous, filled with representatives from 100 different species. They sat in curved rows that rose toward a domed ceiling painted with star maps. This was where the fate of the galaxy was decided. This was where laws were made and broken. Today was here to speak. She was no longer the broken creature from the cage. Her silver skin glowed with health. Her eyes, once empty and dark, now shone with quiet strength. She wore simple clothes in human style, a gift from Doctor who had become like a mother to her. The Galactic Refugee Council had been formed 6 months ago, after humanity pressured the Assembly into action. The Council's job was to protect beings who had been displaced, enslaved, or trafficked across the stars. It was not perfect. Politics still slowed everything down, but it was a start. Had become one of the Council's strongest voices. She spoke for those who could not speak for themselves. She about what slavery really meant, what it did to minds and bodies and souls. Her words had helped free thousands of beings from similar fates. Today she would address the full assembly. Today she would tell her story one more time. She walked to the central platform. The hall fell silent. Hundreds of alien eyes watched her, some curious, some hostile, some afraid of what she might say. Sat in the human section, his uniform neat and formal. He had retired from active command 3 months ago to lead the Refugee Rescue Initiative. He found more meaning in saving lives than in fighting wars. Beside him sat, the family that had formed around a girl they had refused to abandon. Looked at them for a moment, drawing strength from their presence. Then she began to speak. 1 year ago I was found in a cage on a slave transport ship. I had been a slave since I was 4 years old. I had known nothing but pain, fear, and cruelty for as long as I could remember. When the human who found me reached toward me, I raised my hands to protect my face. I expected to be hit. I expected more suffering. That was all I knew. She paused, letting the silence deepen. I whispered 4 words, "Please do not hurt me." These were the only words I had left, not a request for freedom, not a demand for justice, just a simple plea for a few moments without pain. Her voice grew stronger. The human who found me did not hurt me. He sat down on the cold floor of that ship and made himself small so I would not be afraid. He told me his name. He asked for mine. And when he carried me out of that cage, he did not carry property or cargo. He carried a person. She looked across the assembly hall. Some faces showed shame. Others showed anger. A few showed nothing at all. I know what many of you think about humans. I know the stories. Warriors, predators. A violent species that nearly destroyed itself before spreading across the stars. I believed those stories too. When I learned my rescuers were human, I was more afraid than ever. I expected them to be the masters yet. A soft murmur moved through the crowd. I was wrong. I was so completely wrong. Those humans taught me things that no one had ever taught me before. They taught me that kindness could be free. They taught me that I was allowed to say no. They taught me that my feelings mattered, that my choices were mine to make, that my life had value simply because I was alive. She turned to look at. His eyes were bright with unshed tears. Commander sat outside my door every morning for weeks. He asked nothing from me. He expected nothing. He simply wanted me to know that I was not alone. He brought me gifts, a blanket, a picture of mountains. Small things that told me someone saw me as a person. She returned her gaze to the assembly. When the Empire came to take me back, the humans did not bargain with them. They did not calculate the political cost or weigh the trade relationships. They said no. They said that I was not property. They said that if anyone wanted to take me, they would have to go through every human ship in the sector. Her voice rose with emotion. 12 ships stood between me and the slavers. 12 ships full of humans who had never met me, who knew nothing about me except that I was afraid and needed protection. 3 of those humans died in the battle that followed. They gave their lives for a stranger, for someone who was not even their species. She let that truth hang in the air. I have been asked many times why humans do this, why they fight for beings they do not know, why they suffer for strangers, why they care about the suffering of others when most of the galaxy looks away. She spread her hands, a gesture of openness. I believe I finally understand. Humans look at the universe and they see something that many species miss. They see that pain is universal, fear is universal. The desire to live without suffering is shared by every thinking being, regardless of form or origin. And somewhere in their history, somewhere in the long journey from their small blue planet to the stars, humans decided that this shared experience matters more than differences. They decided that if someone is capable of feeling pain, that someone deserves kindness. They decided that power should be used to protect, not to exploit. They decided that strength means standing between the weak and those who would harm them. She took a deep breath. The galaxy has been lying to me my whole life. It told me that I was property. It told me that my suffering did not matter. It told me that kindness was always a trick and trust was always a trap. The humans showed me the truth. They showed me that another way is possible. Her eyes swept across the hall one final time. I am not here to tell you what to do. I am not here to demand changes or threaten consequences. I am here to tell you what I know. I know that slavery is wrong. I know that suffering matters. And I know that if the galaxy chooses to ignore this truth, there will always be humans standing in the darkness, ready to carry the broken out of their cages. She straightened her spine and lifted her chin. My name is, it means world in the language of my human family. I choose this name because they gave me a new world, a world where I am allowed to exist without earning it, a world where my voice matters, a world where I can sleep without fear and wake without pain. I was a slave. Now I am free, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure that others find the same freedom. She stepped back from the platform. The hall was silent for a long moment. Then slowly a sound began to build. It started in the human section, but it spread outward. Applause, agreement, a recognition that something important had been said. Not everyone joined. Some species sat in cold silence, their representatives unmoved by her words. But many did join, many who had never thought about these questions before, many who were finally seeing the truth that had been hidden by politics and profit. After the speech, found in the hallway outside the Great Hall, he was waiting for her as he had waited outside her door on so many mornings. You did well, he said. I meant every word. I know, that is what made it powerful. They walked together through the corridors of the assembly building. Outside, a transport was waiting to take them back to the Refugee Initiative headquarters. There was more work to do. There was always more work. But today, they could take a moment to breathe. I used to dream about being free, said as they walked. But I did not know what freedom looked like. I thought it meant being alone, with no one to protect me. And now I know that freedom is the opposite. Freedom is choosing who stands beside you. Freedom is giving your trust to people who deserve it. She looked at him with a gentle smile. Freedom is building a family from strangers who refuse to look away. Smiled back. It was a warm smile, full of the gold and blue and green that had first seen in him on the day they met. The galaxy is still full of cages, he said. We cannot open them all. No, but we can try. And for every cage we open, for every being we help, the universe becomes a little brighter. They reached the transport and climbed inside. Through the window, could see the stars beginning to appear as the planet turned toward night. Somewhere out there, frightened beings were whispering pleas for mercy. But now, for the first time in galactic history, someone was truly listening. And humanity would answer. It would always answer. Because that is what it meant to be human. Not the violence or the fury, not the conquest or the expansion. The simple, stubborn refusal to accept that suffering should be ignored. the impossible belief that every life matters, even the smallest, even the most broken, even the ones the universe forgot. This was humanity's gift to the stars. And the stars would never be the same.